Hello and welcome to North Country Matters. My name is Donna Seymour. I'm a member of the St. Lawrence County branch of the American Association of University Women, one of the civic partners for this show. Today we are hosting a candidate conversation with Chad Colbert, a candidate for the open seat of District 11 on the St. Lawrence County Board of Legislators. Joining us is Dan Dullea, who teaches civic journalism here at Clarkson University. We are both residents of District 11. These nonpartisan conversations with candidates ask each candidate to explain his or her position and ideas. We look forward to a thoughtful and civic discussion of the issues. A note to our audience that both candidates for District 11 were invited to appear on North Country Matters, but only Mr. Colbert accepted. All right, Chad, welcome to North Country Matters.
Thank you.
You're running for the open seat on the St. Lawrence County Board of Legislature for District 11, which includes a small corner of the Village of Potsdam and the Town of Stockholm. If you could show District 11 map on the screen for our viewers, please. This seat is one of 5 open seats on the county board, so we're going to be seeing some changes after Election Day anyway, because there's going to be some new folks sitting on the board. The seat's currently held by Dan Parker, who decided not to run again. You're a professional finance background, and you own your own company, Colbert Wealth Management, and you've indicated that one of the primary areas of concern in running for the board is county finances, so let's start with that.
Okay.
For the second year in a row, St. Lawrence County has been designated one of the most fiscally stressed municipalities in the state, according to a report from the Comptroller's Office. We have a ranking of 6th highest among 14 municipalities in significant stress. And the common indicators that indicate stress are things like child poverty, high unemployment, and decreases in state and federal aid. So to start with, Chad, what are your ideas for addressing this problem and improving our fiscal situation overall?
It's a good question. It's a very pertinent question. St. Lawrence County has struggled for a long time with economic issues. Part of the issue is costs. We do have to get costs under control, but part of the issue is somewhat out of our control in that when you enter a recession, as we did in 2008, poverty goes up. It's just simple as that. And when poverty goes up, the costs of the county increase, and there's really nothing you can do about those costs. They're going to increase. Are there efficiencies we could improve on? Absolutely. I plan on looking for some of those efficiencies, combined with some of the other legislative candidates. We bring some pretty good finance background, and I'm hoping the group of us together can find some inefficiencies and improve on that. In addition to that, to really bring St. Lawrence County along, increase their economic opportunities, we have to do exactly that. We have to somehow look for and support economic growth and opportunities. I'm not looking for the next Alcoa. If another Alcoa wants to come here, that's great, that's fine, but realistically, that's probably not going to happen. What I'm more looking at supporting is the kind of cottage industries, the specialty, the mom and pop shops, those kinds of things. St. Louis County is a beautiful area. We have a lot of natural resources. We have great people. Clarkson, for example, I teach part-time here at Clarkson. The students here are pretty good students. What we see year after year is a talent exodus from this area. We see very talented young people leave the area because there's not opportunities here. And there could be.
Right.
And I don't know, I'm hoping county government, even at the local level, what can we do? I'm not saying county government's the answer, but are we getting in the way at all? Are there things we could be doing to better encourage business and economic growth in this area?
Hi, Chad. First, what I'd like to do is I'd like to thank you for stepping up to do this.
You're welcome.
In this day and age, somebody deciding to be a public servant is a pretty unique kind of thing in that things have been going so bad for so long for a while economically. So I'm going to hit you with the taxes. Everybody hates the taxes. But, we figured last December, in a good faith effort, the board stepped up and said, well, we got to raise that taxes by a percentage point in the hopes that would get us over. Didn't work out that way.
No.
I mean, we're on pace to be like 1.8 million short. And we understand it's not all our fault. The darn dysfunctional state government that we have, and the late
Yep.
payments, and them not getting their work done that prevents it. So the reality is reflected in the county budget that, you know, that we've contracted the budget again. And what have you any ways or thoughts on how to address this in a more long-term kind of way?
That's, I'm glad you bring that up too, because as a financial planner, I do focus very much on long-term. When I meet with individuals, it's always I always encourage them to take a long-term view of what we're doing today. And government has to do more of that. Taxes, you can raise taxes in a hope to increase revenue, but sometimes it doesn't happen that way. Yeah. If you raise taxes, you can often decrease economic activity, which in the long run will actually decrease tax revenue.
You know, we're doing this in the face of the behemoth of Amazon, where more and more people with less and less time have time to go out shopping, and you can get it in your home. So, I mean, that's something that we're always going to have to deal with.
So, by raising the sales tax, you've encouraged people to essentially shop elsewhere if they can. Yeah. And some people will, and they have. So was that a long-term solution? Absolutely not. I don't think raising tax rates is a viable solution. You cannot squeeze water from a stone, and you have we're not a high-income area in St. Lawrence County. You can't tax people any more than you already are. There's nothing more to get from them. The idea or the plan is, I think, is not to increase the tax rate, but to increase the tax base. Bring more people in, hopefully, or get people to stay here that will add to the tax base. So then if you have, you know, this big of a pie, instead of sharing it with, you know, 1,000 people, you're now sharing it with 15,000 people, and so on and so forth. So each person pays a slightly lower share of that pie.
Chad, I want to follow up on that. That 8% tax question was one small piece of the puzzle, and actually it's a big piece of the puzzle for everybody at the bottom of the economic ladder. New York State does not tax home heating oil. St. Lawrence County does. That's 4% on top of what is already a very big chunk of the family budget. And we know that when the federal government produces, and it's literally a production of the cost of living index, they take food and energy out as if somehow we can live, you know, without those two items. I'm sure there are places where you can live without fuel oil, but it doesn't happen to be in St. Lawrence County. Would you support giving the folks that break from that very regressive tax that's on top of one of the most expensive items in our home budgets?
On the surface, probably yes. But again, I'd have to get into the numbers before I could say conclusively whether or not I do that. That is a very silly thing to do. St. Lawrence County, we are heavily dependent on heating oil. And that's one of those items too. You can't switch, if you have an oil-fired furnace, you can't switch to another heating source in one season. It's usually
and certainly without a big investment.
Without a big cost. So again, that's something that's relatively inelastic. So people cannot switch just because the price goes up in one season or 2 seasons or even 3 or 4 seasons. They can't make a switch very, very quickly. So yeah, that heating oil issue is an absolutely big deal. That being said, I mean, well, that's we'll leave that. I don't know. Again, we'd have to look at the numbers in detail and see what we could do there. But that doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me.
It would be interesting to at least find out what percentage of the income stream does come from that.
That's a good point too. What percentage of St. Lawrence County revenue comes from that?
We know how much of it's coming out of our pockets as individuals, but we don't know how important that is.
I've always found it silly too. I mean, and as a financial planner, a certified financial planner, I sit down with people all the time too. And inflation is obviously a big consideration when you're planning for somebody's retirement or investing and that sort of thing. And the CPI index that the government calculates, you're exactly right. They take food and energy out of it as if that doesn't count. And that's, you know, that doesn't make any sense. It counts a lot.
It counts a lot.
Absolutely.
Well, that actually leads us right to the next area that we want to talk about, which is poverty. And as you know, high poverty is one of the earmarks of St. Lawrence County life, unfortunately. A significant portion of the county budget is devoted to assisting people in poor economic condition. New York State's one of 5 states that actually requires it to be administered at the county level instead of the state county, or the state level. So here we sit spending money waiting to be reimbursed, and the state does not have a good track record about timely repayments to the counties. So that adds to our economic crisis all up and down the line. The social services budget in 2015 is expected to be about $32 million. It was $30 million in 2013, and this includes really critical programs like Medicaid, which is health care, food stamps, and winter heating help. And we know that in terms of need, it's a growing need. There was just a discussion last night at SUNY Potsdam. 4 local experts came to the conclusion that the issue of poverty, hunger, and homelessness in St. Lawrence County has reached a crisis proportion. And they say it's one that doesn't just touch one generation, it's something that actually goes across the generations. So what ideas do you have to address this particular problem, which is a big chunk of what the county has to manage, both financially and in terms of the people services that it offers?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It is a huge portion of county budget is this Department of Social Services, and the need is greater than other counties. We personally realize that as my wife and I have recently become foster parents. So we have taken in a foster infant and are fostering this child. And the number of kids entering foster care has grown significantly in the last 5 years for various reasons. And that costs, that's an expense for the county. Part of the problem there, or part of the issue there is exactly as you said, the state has to be more timely in their payments to us, and possibly even see if we can get some more state aid from them. If they're mandating these programs, then they need to pay on time, because there's time value of money. If they don't pay us, if they lag 2 months, 3 months, that costs us money. And that's something we have some great state representatives, and hopefully we can encourage them to really get the state better on the ball. But you're right, that's a big part of it. The state mandates these programs. We have no control over whether or not we administer a lot of these programs, especially within the Department of Social Services. So we need the state to do their part as well.
I know there's a discussion by at least a couple of state senators about changing that and making the state be responsible, but I doubt there'll be much of an appetite for that if they can continue to send that problem down the line to somebody else.
The state's got their own financial issues as well. So, but if they're going to mandate these programs, hey, you gotta do what you gotta put your money where your mouth is, kind of thing. And they're not really doing that now. They're saying, yeah, let's mandate these programs, all well and good, but oh, wait a minute, we're not going to pay you quite yet for it. Well, that's not fair.
I want to change up things.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to look at the close view and macro view at the same time. Maybe not something that county legislators think about a lot, but you can do something one way or the other. And that's with reference to climate change. So the question is, do you agree with scientific consensus that global warming poses a significant threat to the planet and is putting real stress on society as it comes to grip with the economic impacts of extreme weather in very localized ways, like the increased demand for heating that we talked about? What do you think?
I think mankind has a responsibility to our planet, obviously. I think we have a responsibility to respect and take care of the resources that we've been given here. That being said, that's really all I think we can be expected to do. Don't be wasteful, and be respectful to the different resources that we have available to us. Myself personally, I love the outdoors. I'm very, I own a little bit of land myself, and I'm very careful in how I manage that property and what I do with that property, because I love it. I love land, I love the outdoors and that sort of thing.
Are there any things, even policy-wise, that you can think of that the county legislature might do to perhaps, even if not mitigate things, but to perhaps express those same values from our local situation for the world?
people, it's kind of a broad problem, not just in St. Lawrence County, but worldwide as far as, and what I'm referring to here is people take pride in, people on social services, a lot of times their self-pride, their confidence has been knocked down a few notches, to say the least.
Yeah.
And some of them have just, may have lost it altogether. When that happens, it's hard to respect the earth when you don't have much respect for yourself.
Yeah.
So
or
part
feel
of it,
much hope.
Or feel much hope, exactly. Why am I going to save the planet? Save it for who? I mean, they don't care. And why would they care? They have their circumstances are so in such a way that they
Maslow's
don't
scale,
care.
they're just not rising up to that need.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of the issues of addressing climate change and that sort of thing, if folks want to spend time addressing that, is really you have to address some of the social and economic issues of the individuals you're talking to.
Yeah.
I mean, you see Hollywood types all the time, save the planet, save the planet. Well, yeah, of course they want to save the planet. They're the biggest consumers as well. One of their houses is probably, consumes about as much as 10 of the house, the average American. So, but these people up here that are struggling financially, it's hard to worry about that kind of stuff when you don't know if you're going to eat tomorrow night, kind of thing. So the idea is to give them hope, and they'll respect themselves, and then they'll respect their surroundings and their environment.
One of the things I think, Chad, that the county could do, and it comes down to talking about new construction and renovation, is you could require that all new construction be net zero in energy use, that it be super insulated, and that it be, and encourage things like a solar array or something like that. The cost on that stuff is coming way, way down. And if we could make that, maybe from a tax rebate or point of view, but say, if you're going to put on an addition to your house, it's got to be net zero. You can't, you want to be able to address these long-term issues. Yeah. This is a way to do it up front.
I like the idea of alternative energy. I don't know if solar and wind is the answer, but I certainly like that we're looking at other sources of energy besides just oil. I'm not anti-oil. Oil is a fine source of energy. I'm not against using oil, but
at $4 a gallon, we all rethink it.
Yeah, absolutely. And in my mind, I'm a financial guy. It's got to be economically feasible. Right. When solar panels and wind turbines get economically feasible, they'll be used. But you're right. The cost is coming down as technology improves. The cost will come down, and maybe they will someday be very economically feasible. I would love to put a windmill up at my house, but the costs are just prohibitive.
Yeah,
it doesn't make any sense to put one up, and I wouldn't pay for it in my lifetime.
Yeah. But we could require new construction to be super insulated and to be very mindful of its energy use.
Possibly. I think people, as energy prices go up, people will do that anyways. You look at the money people are spending on, adding extra insulation and sealing up their home, and you get companies, I have a cousin who owns Cornerstone Services. They do these energy audits, and that people are mindful. When you're paying $4 a gallon for heating oil, they're going to try to plug up the holes as best they can. Yeah,
and we certainly have a large stock of old houses that have been improperly insulated. According to national figures, regularized households are seeing an energy savings of $250 to $480 annually. Addie Russell, our Assemblywoman, suggested that an effective way to reduce energy consumption in the North Country would be to promote more this home weatherization, especially trying to figure ways to do it for the low-income families that we were talking about. Do you agree? And if so, how might the legislature attack that?
I do agree with that. I think that's a good idea. Even better than requiring new houses to do super. Let's deal with what we've got first, and I think that's a great idea to try to encourage these weatherization programs and get these energy audits done and see where the holes are. I don't know exactly how to do it. As far as there would have to be to incent people to do it. Maybe you offer some tax credits, rebates, something like that. I don't know that we could do that at the local level, however. I don't know how much control we'd have over that at the local level. But that's something we could certainly appeal to our state representatives for.
You know, Chad, I was listening to the radio yesterday, and there was a conversation of mayors across the country, and they were talking about the fact that mayors really have to be problem solvers, that you can't rely on their state or the federal government to come in and solve your problems, that you've got to figure out how to do it on your own. One of the mayors talked about the fact that when he sat down with his board, they decided that they really had to make quality of life in their community a top priority, because they thought that if they could offer a very high quality of life, that would keep people in their community, as we talked about earlier with young people leaving, and that it would be a way to attract business of all kinds and sizes, not, as you say, just the Alcoas, but the little businesses that can do a lot to actually generate income. But one of the keys of high quality of life is health care. And we know that out of the 62 counties in St. Lawrence, or in New York State, St. Lawrence ranks 55th in overall poor health. Obesity, smoking rates, childhood tooth decay, colon cancer rates in the North Country are all well above state averages. This costs all of us in lots of ways, both because of high medical costs, particularly for the low-income folks on Medicaid, but also just in terms of quality of life issues. Can you see that trying to improve the quality of life to make St. Lawrence County more attractive as a goal that the county could work on? And if so, what would you do to address, you know, the poor health that we have now and try to work on those issues?
Again, I think it goes back somewhat to this, people in poverty don't have much self-respect, or sometimes they don't. I'm not saying all people, I shouldn't say a blanket statement like that, but so I think it comes to a couple of things, trying to build people's self-esteem. If you care about yourself, you're going to take better care of yourself. There's also an education component. I think there's a lot of people who simply don't know some of these things or some of these issues. They don't quite understand it. And then offer some opportunities to improve your health. There's a St. Lawrence County Health Initiative. In Parishville, they do a little fun run every week during the summer. It's all volunteer, and there are some sponsorships from some small companies there. But it's a weekly run where the whole family can come out and do a little exercise. Ideas like that are great. We have great areas for doing stuff like that. It's a beautiful. They have a little trail, loop in the trail or in the woods that you do, and it's a lot of fun. I go with my family as much as we can, and we have a good time. I think there needs to be more things like that. I'd like to run myself. I'm one of these strange people that likes running. In other areas of the country I've lived in, there have been a lot more opportunities for races and running and outdoor events. Here there could be more. There's quite a few here, but I think there could be even more. So I think a component of you try to get people out of poverty, an education component, and just opportunities to
But on a community by community basis,
by
what you're
community,
saying.
absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
Neighbors kind of doing that with
Well,
neighbors.
that's what I love seeing people taking initiative and doing things themselves. It doesn't have to be government mandated. Let people take care of themselves. If you teach them correct principles, they'll take care of themselves, usually just better than somebody else could.
But as you say, you need the community infrastructure
Right.
that makes that possible.
Right.
too.
You need trails. You need some place to do some of these events. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I wanted to ask you, we found out this week that Karen St. Hilaire is going to be retiring at the end of her term in March. If you elected, you're going to be part of the search team, right?
Yeah. What
qualities are we looking for the next county manager?
That's a good question. I think that's something as a board we should, if I'm elected, we should all kind of put together a list of criteria. Here's what we want to look for in the next county administrator. My opinion right off the bat is, one, you need somebody that can manage numbers, somebody that can handle budgets, manage budgets, and you need somebody that's got some people skills, because there's always some negotiation that has to go on between this department, that sort of thing, as well as the Board of Legislatures as well. So right off the top of my head, the two things I think that are important is has a head for numbers, or at least understands numbers, and has some good social or people skills, is able to work well with others.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Chad, we got time for one more question, and this is kind of open-ended, but I think it'll get a little bit to what your vision for this particular position might be. Is there an untapped resource that you'd like to see the county develop? Is there something that the county board could do to really move forward that you don't think is being done now?
I think there's a few untapped resources here. I think St. Lawrence County has a lot of natural resources that are not being used. There's a lot of farmland that's not being used. And agriculture is a big industry up here, and it should be bigger, I think. I think agriculture's got some pretty good opportunities in this area that I don't think are fully being realized. Another big untapped resource in St. Lawrence County is its people. Like I mentioned earlier, we have 4 universities here that produce some pretty quality students, and they leave. I'd love for more of them to stay and work on their ideas. I love Clarkson. Clarkson has this, what do they call it? It's basically an entrepreneurship where they offer students a scholarship for a piece of ownership in their business. That's a wonderful idea. I was like, and if we could get some of these students to come to this area, like Clarkson is doing, they're luring them to this area by offering them scholarships. And if these kids can stay here and build their business here, that'd be great.
And find an unmet need here.
Not even necessarily unmet need here, but even if it could export to other places. I mean, because...
And import the money.
And import the money. There you go. Now you're talking. But that's, it's people and it's natural resources I don't think are being utilized. I mean, my wife and I bought an old farm when we first moved back up here. 100 and some acres of land, and it's not being farmed. We're letting the Amish, or we have Amish neighbors, and they're doing some maple sugaring and that sort of thing. But there's a lot of land up here like that that's just not being used, and it's good quality land. There's probably a lot that could be done.
Yeah, and there's certainly a lot of opportunity in the sustainable energy business like that,
absolutely.
With switchgrass and other kinds of things that people are experimenting
I liked
with.
hearing Curran doing the wood pellets up there. I love that idea. Why not do more of that? St. Lawrence County we're never going to have a lot of people. I don't want a lot of people up here necessarily. People come up here because they like it here because it is rural. It's not New York City, or it's not Albany or something like that. But we have the land, we have the resources, and it's renewable. I mean, you grow grass every year, and you grow pellets, and the trees grow back. Yeah.
Chad, thank you very much. It's been a great conversation. Good luck with continuing to go out and meet folks in your district, and we'll see what the voters have to say on November 4th.
Thank you.
And that's a reminder to our voters to make sure you are registered and that you have taken the time to learn about the candidates and ask them the questions about the issues that you care about. So our time is up. Thank you. These conversations are a production of North Country Matters, produced here in the studios of WCKN on the campus of Clarkson University. This show is a civic collaboration between the St. Lawrence County branch of the American Association of University Women, the St. Lawrence County League of Women Voters, and the Communication and Media Department at Clarkson. Until next time, please remember, our North Country matters. Thank you.